Go download my free legato course right now and learn to play fast in the fastest way possible. Hey, so how do you take on something that is way beyond your skill level? Because the previous video was about that, so you need to go back and watch that. It's important because this is the main mistake that most people make in the middle of their development. So they just stagnate, they get nowhere. And we need to do that because every single one who ever got to a superior skill level, in however you define that, did this. And what they did was they took on something that was way harder than you would normally do. When you think about how people progress one step at a time, you take something that you can actually succeed at so you can get a success experience and move on to something that's a little bit harder, right? But that doesn't work when you get to a mid-level. And there's another point. When you are self-studied, when you are guiding this process yourself and you don't have a teacher who lays out, which I totally recommend, that you go by your own will, right? Because that is way more powerful if you can. So if you can shift from that process of somebody else dictating what you are supposed to learn now to following your own emotions of what you are most interested in and where you want to go, then that is perfect. And if you can't, go back to having a teacher, right? So how do we go about taking on something that is way harder and actually succeed at it? Let's say you want to master something that most people think is impossible for them, alternate picking at the highest level. Then say you look at this guy who can do all these runs and it seems impossible to do that. So what do? Well, instead of going for, alternate picking challenge number 1, beginner, itsy bitsy spider, read the little book where, Lisa went to the lake. Lisa came down to the lake and she said, the lake is pretty. The lake is pretty, she said. Instead of being at that level, just, kill me, right? You just take on the beast of alternate picking and you say, okay, I got this crazy run that somebody did, right? Like, whatever, right? Something like that. And you say, that's what I want to do. And you're just in no position, people would say, to take on a challenge like that because you're way below that, right? But you're not, because you chop it up. Magic formula. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? How do you climb a mountain that goes so high that you cannot see the tip of it? One step at a time, right? But now you're climbing Mount freaking Everest instead of trying to get over the hill, right? So now it's like, wow, the amazement at when you reach your goal and the tip of Mount Everest and the wow, right? It's a totally different story. So how do you do it? Well, what is that when it comes to guitar playing and practicing? It's chopping things up, right? And looking at, analyzing what is really the challenge here. Right? You can just chop it up and say, okay, what's the first thing that happens in that run? It's the Malmsteen-like slide. Well, it's sliding from some place down here up to that note, pulling off to the 13th, and then to the 12th. And then you might say, oh, that's way too hard for me, Claus. Just the pulling off or the slide. I can't hit anything like that. It's too fast. Well, do it. Just try and see what happens. Do this 1,000 times, slowly, controlled, correct, and every single time. So you go. Beginner level. Do that 1,000 times. And then you have a totally different, so I can't do anything, right? If I just do it with enough focus, controlled, correct every single time. Because we mix things up. We think this thing I just did is the speed and the actions together. That's what I did. No, it's not. I'm just doing this. Faster. Not because I practiced it faster, but because I did it a lot of times. That's it. I'm a genius at doing this because I did it a lot of times, right? Nothing else goes into that. Just think about how fast you brush your teeth or you walk on the street or you talk. Why do you talk so fast? Because I did it a lot of times, right? But you didn't rush trying to speak. You didn't try to speak fast so you could learn how to speak fast. You just spoke and spoke and spoke and spoke and spoke, and then you spoke some more. And then once you didn't speak, then you were just talking inside of your head over and over and over and over and over again. Repetition, endless repetitions. And you didn't struggle to do that. It was pleasurable, right? So you sat in front of the TV, you did like the watching Friends or whatever ancient TV series you can come up with, right? You just, no rush, nothing. But you did it a lot of times, right? And so after a month or so, if you're a total beginner, you go from not being able to do it at all to being able to do it on a pretty great level, right? And since you're at that level, let's expand. So what else is happening? Well, you look at the tabs and you see, there's 3 more notes, right? And it's just up, down, up. Now it's a pick stroke. And so you can take and leave the first thing. Key thing. Leave the first thing alone and just practice. And then you go at that, right? Until you can do it at the same level as the first. Then you take the 2 pieces of the puzzle and put them together. And here's where most people, they fall off the wagon. They go, hey, I've been spending too much time on this. This is way too slow, Claus. Let me go back to my learning a little bit so I can get the success experience. I want that success experience of having achieved something. But you have achieved something. Yes, but it's not, I can't use this. It's nothing like the guy who was playing it. I'm not at that level yet. It's going to take forever. And then we drop off the wagon. We stop climbing Mount Everest and say, okay, let me climb a smaller hill instead so I can feel successful. But here's the trick. If you want to break out of the intermediate level, then you have to say goodbye to that addiction of getting that result of being able to play something that sounds like music right away or in a week or tomorrow. You have to say goodbye to that. That is the need of the beginner. When you start going from the intermediate level to the advanced level, you aim higher. You aim to be a musician. And that means that you have to build skills instead of building songs, right? So when you want to build a skill, that's totally different from building the ability to play the next chord. You need to focus on something like this and endless repetitions. And it's fun because now you know you're building a freaking mountain instead of a little hill, right? You're aiming for something magical. And you stay in that zone. And once you can do just that, once you can do that at that level, all roads are open to you. And 99% of all people who practice guitar never get to that point because they are addicted to the first process of getting small results all the time. So they would rather learn a new song that actually doesn't give them that much of a skill improvement because it's the same elements that they already master. Right? It's just shuffled in another way. The chords are played in a slightly different strumming pattern or whatever. We would rather go for that so we can have that quick hit than we would go for something that is more long term and that's actually going to give us what we want. That's the whole difference. And once you can shift your mindset away from the beginner's mindset of small improvements that make you feel successful to huge improvements that make you feel ecstatic but takes a little bit longer. Then you are about to break out of the intermediate zone. But that is the core of it. That is the thing that you must shift inside of yourself in order to break out. Right? So chop things up. Take one little item out of the whole and then create a loop around it and attack it with an incessant, repetitive focus that will make you conquer it. And then take the next thing and the next thing. That's what I did. And it will most definitely have you break out of the intermediate zone. And don't forget to watch the next video on this subject that will be out pretty soon here on YouTube. And click the link below. Go check out our new course, which is a really good place to start if you want something amazing to aim at, some high point that's going to influence every single area of your playing. So go check that out and don't forget to watch the next video. See you then. Subscribe for more free videos. Do it. Do it now. Do it.